This is my usual let's help you figure out what you're supposed to be doing with the homework and how am I supposed to be applying this to an actual company video. Yeah, lots of hyphens. In this video, what I want to do is focus our attention on the issues and how to apply them. So to begin with, step one, let's determine the dividend policy for my company. And what I mean by that is figure out which policy they seem to be following. A lot of my students in the past would have said, oh, they're not following any policy because they don't pay any dividend. That is a policy. To pay no dividend is a policy, and that means they're buying into the whole theory of dividend irrelevance, number one. And number two, there may be some constraints that they're afraid of crossing over. For instance, they may not have a lot in retained earnings currently, and they're afraid that if their retained earnings get too low, they won't be able to continue with a dividend, and therefore they will have to cut it. And if they cut a dividend, you know what that means. And we can talk a little bit about, in all of these, you can talk about clientele effect, you can talk about which theory it seems to be following, etc. I'm expecting people, when they write this up, to actually have understood what I said in video 1 and be able to apply it to their company. That's really what I'm looking for. And then specifically say which of the policies that I outlined in video 2 is your company following. Remember to justify your conclusion, and don't tell me that not paying a dividend is not having a dividend policy. Why does the dividend policy make sense for your company? Again, talk about those constraints. Talk about, well, I'm afraid that they're afraid that they would have to cut their dividend. They may be saying that my company is growing so fast that it makes more sense to reinvest it all from the investor's standpoint. And besides that, my clientele don't really want dividends. They'd really have the capital gains for the reasons outlined in the lecture. Explain in writing what dividend policy the firm appears to be following. What message is the firm trying to send to market participants? I'm just going to rewrite that one in my head, okay? Do you believe that message? Do you think the market believes it? Let me show you how to do step 1. I think where I would start with step 1 is in Finance Yahoo. Type in the ticker symbol for my company. I'm going to use RCKY. Go down to historical prices. I'm not looking for stock splits because this company probably, I don't remember them ever having a stock split. But we can go to dividends only. Now the dividends only will give me all of their dividends. It will give them to me quarter by quarter by quarter by quarter. My company has had a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dividends since it began existing. I don't know if that's even a phrase, but it's paid only 6 dividends, and they've been the most recent 6 quarters, by the way. And it's been 10 cents per quarter. Now going back, I'd always start here just to see what the shareholders are looking at. They're looking at 10 cents per share. And by the way, the data on this page is in dividends per share and per quarter. So they're quarterly and per share. Now I'm going to, you will not believe how many times I have trouble getting that across. This is dividends per share and per quarter. Now notice there were 3 of them in 2014, 3 of them in 2013. You're going, oh, then how are they quarterly? Because they started in May, August, November, February, May, August, and I'm assuming they're trying to say there will be one coming in November. That will be the 7th. The other place I would look to see if they're paying dividends is on their cash flow statement. On Rocky Brand's cash flow statement, we have dividends paid to common shareholders. And if it's paid, it's a negative. The cash flow statement has negatives as outflows, positives as inflows. So they have 58,000 $3,738 that they paid in dividends. And notice they've never paid any others, which is consistent with the story I was reading in Finance Yahoo, and you're saying, but I thought they paid it over 2 years. They did. It's just that the most recent year that I have is 2013. They only paid 3/4 in 13, and they've paid so far 3/4 in 2014. I don't have their year-end cash flow statement yet because, well, the year still hasn't ended when I'm recording this, so that's not gonna happen. So anyway, this is the total amount of dividends that they paid, $58,738 in. So what dividend policy are they trying to communicate to the market? I think they're trying to communicate a stable, predictable dividend of about 40 cents per year, because they've had 10 cents per quarter for quite a while. 10 cents times 4 is 40 cents for those of you who aren't figuring out how I got to 40 cents from 10 cents. So, what can I do thus far? I've determined the dividend policy my company's following, stable, predictable dividend policy, justified my conclusion. They haven't been paying dividends until just very recently. But over the last 6 quarters, they've paid exactly 10 cents. It hasn't gone up, it hasn't gone down. No matter what they make, they pay 10 cents a share. Why does that policy make sense for my company? I think what they're trying to do, because over the past they've actually paid off a whole bunch of debt, because they've paid off a large portion of their debt, they really have to have a lower cost of equity. And the way that they're trying to do that, going back to the theory that we've just covered, is in paying more in dividend yield to reduce the overall return to the stockholder. I think that's what they're planning, what they're trying to do. So explain in writing what dividend policy the firm appears to be following. I already said that one, and that is the message they're trying to tell market participants. I don't know yet whether I believe that message because I haven't actually projected their financial statements, but they seem to, just looking at the dividends, be trying to send the message that we're going to be paying 10 cents a share per quarter, 40 cents per year, and as long as their cash flow statement, which looked like it was able to handle that, then going forward they may be able to handle that. So I think that I may believe that, the market probably will believe that, and so that takes us on to step number 2. Step number 2 is using the beta we calculated in chapter 6 and the formulas we learned in chapter 7, together with the dividend policy we determined in this chapter, estimate the price of the stock based only on the dividend policy and this dividend discount model. This is the Excel sheet that we used to estimate the risk premium for my company. And this is the estimate of the required return to the shareholder. Based on these, therefore, I'm going to add another sheet here and say stock valuation. This is just the beginning one because we're going to do this again and again throughout the rest of the semester to kind of get what all of that means. I'm going to repeat some of this stuff. So we have R sub S. This is my required return to the shareholder. Get out of my way. Going to subscript the S because I'm anal. I'm going to say equal, go back to my CAPM page and just pick up the number. Boom. What growth rate do I see occurring in my dividend? Well, 40 cents a share per year seems to be pretty constant, so I'm going to put 0. Dividend. And what I mean by that is what was the last dividend. In this case, since we have a 0 growth rate, last dividend is the same thing as what I'm expecting in the future, which is, again, I'm subscripting because I'm anal that way, 0.40. Yeah, well, Let me try that again. I told you to put the 0 afterwards, you goof. And those are the only things that I need. So at this point, I need to find my price. And yes, I'm still being anal. And to find my price, I'm going to say equal dividend times 1 plus G. You may say, why are you doing that plus a 0? Because, yeah. And then divided by, parenthesis, R sub S minus G. And it tells me that the price of that stock with all of those assumptions should be $3.91. I know this is way low. The actual stock price right now is $13.08. So is the market just full of baloney? Well, I doubt it, because they're actually throwing money at that at $13 a share, and I'm not at 4. So what I might be saying, or what the market might be saying, is that they're expecting the growth rate to be higher than that. So let's just play with this a little bit. We'll say, well, just if it were to hit inflation, it would be at least a 2%. Well, that increased it a little bit. If we get some real growth in there, then 5%, 6%, 7% is really close. Do I think that the dividends could grow at 7% per year indefinitely? I don't know. The other thing I could do, by the way, let me put this back down to 0. Let's go back over to my capital asset pricing model and say, this 6% thing probably is a little high. Let's do 5. And as I pop back over here, well, that helped a little. And then I don't need quite as much. To get me there. 6% instead of 7. Maybe not that great. By the way, I didn't really have to guess on this one, because I can have the computer guess. I can go back and look at the actual stock price, 1308, and then I can say data, what if analysis, goal seek. I'm going to set the price to 1308 by changing the growth rate. Okay. And as it so happens, I'm going to say okay, so it'll keep it in there. If I say cancel, it'll go back to where it was. So it's saying that with all my assumptions so far, if we keep a growth rate at 5.87%, we will hit that price right on. This is, of course, assuming that what the market is looking at is the dividend discount model. I'm not convinced that that's what's happening here. Dividend discount model may work a lot better, but it's going to have to take a little while to generate enough of a history for it to actually work. If that's true, by the way, my company is going to have to be paying a dividend for a while to get the benefit of a reduced cost of equity. Based on all of this, let me go back to my PowerPoint presentation and finish up. Compare your price that you calculate to the ones found live, as I've already demonstrated on Finance Yahoo or Google Finance, and then explain a scenario under which a dividend discount model could justify the price of my company stock. And I've already done that. I've said, well, if we have a 5% market risk premium, and if we have a 5.87% expected growth in dividends, that G, then the price P sub 0 would be dead on. That's really all I'm asking you to do with this homework, is play with these a little bit, make some sense out of them with the real stock price. For some of you, this will be easy because your company pays a dividend. For some of you, it will be extremely easy because it will justify the stock price almost immediately. For others of you, it will be complete chaos because your company pays no dividend whatsoever, and you're saying, therefore, what as far as the dividend discount model is concerned? If your company pays no dividend at all, according to the dividend discount model and the whole Gordon growth model kind of thing, Gordon was of the opinion that eventually the company would have to start paying a dividend sometime way into the future. You can make up a scenario that would say they're going to pay me a dividend in the future, and you can say when it is and come up with an estimate, but make it at least kind of realistic. And by the way, once we finish with this and we get into another chapter where I'm going to have you look at the financial statements and project them, I'm going to ask you if the company still seems to be able to be turning enough of a profit to justify the current dividends that you're projecting. If so, great. If not, there's a problem. So we're going to be looking at a whole bunch of things now that we're building more and more and more information on this company. So bear with us, and hopefully you'll be able to do this homework without too much trouble.